Have you ever wanted to limit the zip codes your Gravity form can accept based on your delivery area? Hi, I'm Izzy from Gravity Wiz, and today I'm going to be sharing with you the 2 ways that you can validate zip codes on your Gravity forms. So let's start with a recommended technique. First, we're going to build an input form where we can manage the zip codes in our delivery area. And then we're going to be using populate anything, I'll talk more about this later, to validate whether the zip code the user entered is in our service area. Finally, we'll use conditional logic to conditionally show an error or success message accordingly. Okay, let's start by building our zip code management form. Go to your forms. Here I've set up the zip code input form. This is where we will be inputting the zip codes that we deliver to. So all we need is a single field to enter our zip codes. Here I use the single line text and I just named it as zip code. And now we can submit some zip codes in our delivery area. So you have to keep doing this process where you have to enter all the zip codes that are in your delivery area. Now that we have the zip codes, let's go back. And now we're ready to implement the zip code validator in our delivery form. So let's go back to our forms. So here we are in our potion delivery checker, and let's set up the fields. The first I'm going to be adding is the zip code field. This is going to be the field where the customers will be inputting their zip code. I'm then going to be adding another field. I'll be naming it is zip code valid. This will be our zip code validation field. I'll also be making the visibility hidden, so go to the advanced field. Under visibility, click hidden, and let's click save form. And it's now time to install populate anything. So let's go to the forms in the sidebar and click on our spellbook. Gravity Perks Populate Anything lets you populate almost any data in your Gravity form fields. So we're going to use it to see if the zip codes that our customer entered is in the input form. So to install it, let's look for populate anything. Click install and activate it. Now let's go back to our form. Now let's click on zip code valid field and we will check populate value dynamically. For type, we will be selecting Gravity Forms entry. The form we will be using is our input form. We will then add a filter because we want to make sure that the zip code that the customer entered exists in our input form. So we will be putting zip code is zip code and the field values in the input form. Now we go to the value templates, and in value, we will be putting custom value. Let's add the count merge tag. And we will be using this in the conditional logic later on. Next, we'll be adding 2 HTML fields to show if the zip code is in our service area or out of our service area. Now let's go to the conditional logic. Enable conditional logic. Here we'll be putting zip code is not blank. This means we want to make sure they input a zip code. And then we add another one. Here it'll be is zip code valid. We will select greater than. This means that the zip code exists in our input form. Let's now add the other field. And again, we go to the conditional logic. Enable. This will still be zip code is not blank. And for this second line, we will be putting is zip code valid is 0. So this just means that the zip code does not exist in our input form. And now we also want to apply conditional logic to our button because we want the button to only show up when the zip code is in their delivery area. So we click on Submit Button Conditional Logic, and we will have the same conditional logic as the success message. Now we click Save Form. So the reason we set up conditional logic in the Submit button is so that the form cannot be submitted if it's not in their delivery area. Now let's test the form. So first, I'll be testing out a zip code that is not in our input form. So as you can see, it says, sorry, we don't deliver to your area, and the submit button is not there. But now let's try using a zip code that does exist in our input form. So when the zip code exists in our input form, it's going to say, we deliver to your area, and the submit button is there. This isn't the only way we can validate zip codes. We have another alternative approach. Instead of storing our zip codes in a centralized form, we add a list of zip codes directly in the field's conditional logic. This technique works well if you only need to validate zip codes in a single form, and you don't have to be updating a huge list of zip codes in the future. So to do this, we will be using a conditional logic operator is in. We will be going to this blog post. You will be downloading a plugin, and there's a snippet which we'll go back to later on, but let's install the plugin first. We will upload the plugin, choose File. So this is the plugin that we downloaded, and we click Install Now. We then activate the plugin. Now let's go back to that blog post where we will be viewing the code. So when you click that, it goes to this page, and here we have the snippet where we will click copy. Let's go back to our website, and we will be installing this in the functions.php. Let's go to our tools, go to theme file editor, and functions.php. So I've already set it up, but this is where you will paste the snippet, and when you're done, click update file. So let's go back to our form to set this up. Now let's go back to our potion delivery checker. Here we will be editing the conditional logic of our HTML fields. Let's start with the message that's in our customer service area. Click on that field, click on field settings, click on conditional logic. So we will be retaining zip code is not blank because we want them to have a zip code in their field. And here we will be adding a zip code is in, and then we put the zip code values here. And now let's set up the conditional logic for the message when it's out of our customer service area. So we click on that HTML field, and we click on conditional logic. So here we've added a zip code is not, and then we added the specific zip codes that we delivered to, because that means if it's not either of these values, then we don't deliver to that service area. Let's also tweak the conditional logic of the submit button because we only want it to appear when it's in their service area. And then once that's done, click Save Form. And now let's test it out. I'll be using the Gravity Perks Live Preview plugin. Let's first try it with the zip code that is out of our service area. Sorry, we don't deliver to your area. Now let's try it with the zip code that is in our delivery area. Ta-da! It says, we deliver to your area and the submit button is here. So those are the two ways that you can validate your zip codes. Check out our other videos on our YouTube page to see how else you can customize your gravity forms. Until the next time, adventurers!